Morning, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to dial into today's webinar on Click Before You Dig portal. Again, this is quite a very specific theme that we'll be using today, but really the underlying message is around self-service and automation. So in terms of an agenda, it's quite short. Sorry, my slide best wasn't progressing there. It's quite short. I'm going to give a quick overview of IMGS. I can see from the list of attendees, everybody knows who we are. But again, just for those people that might be watching back later on, I'm going to talk about the process. So again, why an organization may want a process like this. I'll talk about the solution components. So again, the FME Desktop and Server and our mapping portal and how it all came together. And then I'm going to give a demonstration. And then at the end, we'll do a Q&A. So at the Q&A, I have Tanya with me from our marketing team. So Tanya will be looking at all your questions. So please don't be shy to put your hand up and ask questions, and we'll do our best to get them at the end. Anything we can't get to, I will come back to you directly. I also have Kieran Kirk with us as well, which again, I can see that most people on the list here know who Kieran is, but Kieran's our general manager, and he's also here for any kind of left field technical questions you might hit Tanya or I with.
Good morning, everyone.
So,
and I'll interrupt every now and then just to be...
Of course. As we all know from an IMGS webinar, I wouldn't be Kieran if you didn't interrupt every now and then. So just a quick overview of IMGS. So we have been in the geospatial space for over 18 years, and we have three main partnerships here in Ireland. So Safe Software, which everybody is very familiar with. So they are the world leading geospatial ETL tool. There's Hexagon Geospatial, who are all around data capture, GIS, whether it be web, desktop, mobile, remote sensing, whatever that's imagined, and things like that. And then Talent, who is our latest partnership. Well, I say our latest partnership. We've been working with them for nearly 2.5 years now, and we've been using Talent to support us to help our customers to make the moves to the cloud, to make sense of big data, and to bring in governance like data stewardship and data preparation. So really, really powerful tool. In terms of our customer base, we work with every local authority in the country, up and down through all a mixture of FME and Hexagon customers. We also work with majority of state agencies, people like the Navy, OSI, Land and Property Services, Northern Ireland, the airport, etc. And again, utilities, we'd be quite big in this space. So we support companies like RVA, which is Irish Water and Gas Networks, the likes of Cyro, which is the joint venture between ESB and Vodafone to bring fibre to the home, and then Enet, for example, which is the example that we're going to be using for today. So I just wanted to put this slide in before I got into it in too much detail, and I called it self-service, and then just underneath you'll see that click before you dig. The reason I did this was, again, the example that we're going to be showing today is very, very specific to a click before you dig portal. But really what we're speaking about is self-service. So when you're listening to us today, think of maybe an issue or a manual process in your organization that could be automated. So again, to take the human element out of it. So if it's the case that when you want to request information from a particular department and it's taking days and days and your time to insight is quite slow, or if you're that person in that department who's getting inundated with requests from the organization and you're, I suppose, getting snowed under in terms of having to stop your day job to go off and get this information, gather it all together, and then respond back. So again, that's what we mean when we're talking about kind of self-service and click before you dig in today's context. So why click before you dig? So I guess for the likes of Enet, or if you are Airbnb or Irish Water, again, it's public safety. The last thing you want is somebody coming along and digging up an area without permission or without insight, and then all of a sudden they're particularly hurt or a staff member. It's also to protect your infrastructure. Again, if you think of Enet, it's a fibre network, extremely expensive. Again, last thing you want is someone with a digger digging into that.
And also from the it's also from Enet, and for all utility customers, it's the service, because they've all got service level agreements with their customers. So if somebody smashes their network, whether it's a water pipe, a telecom pipe, a telecom cable, or a electric cable, there's going to be an outage and customers are going to be dissatisfied. So that protecting of infrastructure is key, because it's not only the cost of replacement, but it's the downtime and loss of customer service and happiness.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Very good point, Kieran. And then again, touching a bit more on what Kieran was saying there, again, it is the authoritative data. So again, the utilities, or Enet in this example, or if it was Irish Water, they own the authoritative data. They are I suppose, the gatekeepers of that information that they look after. So again, they have that responsibility to be able to give that information out to the public. So I guess the problem with any process, which I guess if you're dialed into this webinar at the moment, you'll know that it's quite manual. So these type of processes tend to be paper-based. They're manual, so it means that you'd have to go to one or more systems or a mixture of digital systems and paper-based to get the information. Again, very, very task-heavy. I know in Enet, I think they had 4 or 5 people going through these requests, not full-time, but part-time twice a week in order to be able to get to them and respond to them. So again, I'm kind of getting pulled away from their day job to kind of do this and kind of make sure that they're giving the best customer service that they can. Again, there's that potential for human error, and this is on 2 sides. A, from the engineer or the member of the public who is requesting the information. The last thing that you want to do is that you go through the process of gathering all this information together, and then the user realizes, actually, no, the area that I'm digging up is 50 meters down the road, and you have to repeat that process. But again, same internally, the last thing you want to do is have to put all this information together and realize that you made a mistake or it's missing information and then have to start again, which feeds into time consuming. No matter what way you look at it, any manual process is far more time consuming than it would be if it was to be automated. So with our solution and what we're going to show today, it's modern, it's very user friendly, which you'll see. So again, it's quite easy to use. And when I say user friendly, I guess everybody's quite used to mobile phones and applications and being able to easily consume information. So again, in ours, we'll show how easy it is to just simply draw a polygon, put in your name, some basic information, and get the answers that you want back. We'll show how it's...
I think also on the user-friendly side, one of the important things for us is naturally, with this system, we can't train the users. So actually, like if you're a utility and you're setting up this self-service portal, we can't go out and actually individually train people how to use the system, so it has to be very intuitive. It has to be that somebody can just log on, make their request and log off without training, and I think we've achieved that in that user friendliness here, and that's really what one of the drivers we were doing, and it'll run on any device then, pretty much.
Yeah, no, it's very, very true. Again, we can't do a webinar for the country of Ireland and show the general public, for example, how to generate the report. So again, when we were putting it together, it was something that was always at the forefront of our minds of how easy it is. Take our IT hats off. Could my mother, for example, come in and use the system, be able to gather that information? She still couldn't, by the way, but I'll have to with some coaching. Again, it's automated. There is FME, which you'll see later on. It is the engine in the background that's driving this. So it's going off. It's connecting to the data sets, it's bringing the information together, and it's displaying it in this example, it's going to be PDF, but again, this could be any format whatsoever. So again, it's that automation piece, freeing you up or the department up from having to go away from the day job and do these manual requests, and allows you to add value to your specific role.
And that's also in automating and delivering the data back, but also automating the step of getting the request, the polygon from the contractor or the member of public, which again, we've seen over the years that actually that piece of work with some telecoms and utilities could take days just to find out the accurate location, because they might send in a raster map or a CAD drawing that actually isn't georeferenced. So the CAD drawing could have an arrow on one side saying Kildare and an arrow on the other side saying Cork, and then the utility has to contact that organisation and go, sorry, where do you mean? Or they might send back an updated georeference CAD file. Then the polygon might be on the right layer. There's not these manual steps in gathering the data. Our solution completely automates that gathering piece and automates the delivery piece. So actually, there's 2 levels of automation there, which again makes, as you say, it makes huge time savings.
Absolutely, and that's what it boils down to. And we have seen a couple of examples. We've spoken to a few utilities, and even with Enet, and we've seen some of the examples. Like what Kieran saying, like an arrow north and right, saying in particular, that's a luxury on some of the requests that come in. So yes, absolutely. Again, that saves that a really good point, Kieran. Actually, it saves a lot of that time of you as the authoritative data or the gatekeepers of having to keep on going back and forth to the engineer or to the customer to get that information. Again, it's automated, and it's just at a point in the map. Secure. So again, we'll talk about some of the features as we go along, but again, that the information is secure. So basically, when an individual comes in and registers for your site, say you wanted a username and login, that information is encrypted and it's stored behind the firewall in the database. So again, you don't have to worry about that information being readily available or anybody being able to go in and access it. And then auditable, a very, very important point, especially with Enet, it was to be able to go back and see who requested what data when. So if Kieran sent a request in and said he was going to dig up O'Connell Street, and then, God forbid, something happened, and then you had to go back and look, well, it was like, actually, he requested Fitzwilliam Square, but he dug up O'Connell Street. This is why he was injured. Or it could be that Kieran requested the data 10 months ago, and now he's only going to actually dig it up. So that data is old. So again, we capture the polygon where it was stored, so the request when it came in, when it was issued, and we store the PDF as well. So you can always go back, and which can happen to go back and see that actually, no, we gave Kieran this information on this day, and it was right on the day, for example. So I just wanted to touch on the components quick. So as I said, from looking at the list of the attendees, everybody here, bar one, has FME already. So again, you've got FME Desktop, which is where you're going to create the workspace. Now in this example, we already have the workspace created, but it might be where you want to go in and say tweak the workspace, and I'll explain that a little bit more in a few minutes. FME Server, so that is the engine that drives everything. So FME Server is out there watching for registrations coming in, taking those registrations, encrypting them, sending out validation emails to get them to validate that their email address is correct, gathering the information when a request comes in, sending it back out to the customer. So you can imagine it's like having 5 employees just sitting there, just managing all these requests to and forth. And then finally, the last component is the IMGS Mapping Portal. So this was a very simple web client, simple but intelligent web client that we built about 2 years ago from speaking to some of our local authority customers. So it's great if you have an IT background or if you understand geospatial data. But for most users, like for instance, if it was a roads department or a member of public, they don't understand what FME is, they don't understand what an ETL tool is. They just are so used to, and again, what Kieran had said, just kind of the world we live in terms of Google, where you just go in, put in some very, very basic information and receive an answer back. So with inside the mapping portal, whatever you as the end user create the workspace to say, the mapping portal will display it. So if you have 5 fields and then you want to add a 6th field, you just change the FME workspace and it's automatically displayed out in the portal. So really, really clever and really, really kind of insightful. So I'm just going to touch on the different components. So again, as I said, FME Desktop, that's where you would create the workspace to transform or merge or validate, or in this case, to update the workspace. So we're already going to have an out-of-the-box workspace, but say in 6 months' time, new legislation came out and said that you needed to capture a citizen's date of birth, for example. You could add that field in using FME Desktop and publish it up to FME Server, and then the IMGS Mapping Portal will automatically change to add that field. So literally within seconds. Or in the same case, if legislation changes, say that, okay, you can no longer capture the citizen's date of birth, again, you just remove that and everything updates along the way. So really, really clever. So FME Server, as I said, that is the engine that sits in the background. So that's watching out for requests coming in and out. It's checking the email addresses, it's validating email addresses, it's encrypting data, it's storing the PDFs when the request comes in. So it's constantly working in the background and gathering up all that information and distributing it out to the end users. And then the mapping portal, I know I was just touching it already, but again, it's important to know that it works on any single browser, any web-enabled device. In this particular example, we've tried it on a mobile phone. It's not great. The real estate is quite small, but on a tablet, it's absolutely perfect for an engineer to go in and to draw a polygon and then to view the PDF. It looks quite well. It's secure access. So again, in the example that you can see on the right-hand side, there is no secure access. This would be more of an internal portal where someone could just come in and because they're inside the organization and just draw a polygon and get information back. So that could be a housing or planning department who wants to know all the particular local authority houses in a particular area. They're inside the firewall. There's no need for them to for that level of security, so they can just draw a polygon. We encrypted personal data. So again, if we are capturing, so I'm thinking of Dublin City Council's planning and alert portal. Again, all that information is encrypted on the database level. So again, you know, you've got that peace of mind, especially with GDPR. Validated outputs. And what I mean by validated outputs is that that the data has gone through a set of rules that you have said. So that has to be cleaned. It has to be in a particular coordinate system. The information can only come from a particular area. But also that it's consistent. So if Kieran responds to a request or Tanya responds to a request, naturally they will be slightly different, and we've got different terms, and they might go about it in a different way. with a validated response, which by it being automated, is that every single customer gets a consistent experience every time. They get the same disclaimer, they get the same text, they'll get the same PDF output. It's consistent, which is really, really important. Again, audit trail, which we touched on, which I won't go into too much detail, but again, just knowing that that functionality is there in the background, and that's accessible on desktop and mobile, which is quite powerful in today's world. So I'm going to jump out and I'm going to give a demonstration. I'm going to show you the portal now. So that was me doing a bit of a test run before the webinar. So
you were showing your mother how to use it,
I was showing Mum how to use it, exactly. So I'm just going to log in, first of all, with my credentials, and I'm going to show it. Naturally, this is Enet's live data, so unfortunately we can't show you the actual network, but I know an area where there is no network, so I can just give you an idea of what the PDF looks like, and we'll talk more about that later on. So we've got a very simple login or URL that you can come in, and you can see that it's Enet branded. I have my username and password. I can click forgot password if I forget mine. I can register here, and I'm going to show that process later on, and I can go link out to Enet's actual web page as well. So all automated, really, really clever. But even that password is all managed through FME Server, which is really, really clever. So I'm going to sign in, and here is the page. So it automatically comes to the extent of Ireland, the map. Obviously, Enet are a national organisation, so they've infrastructure all over Ireland. So, but if you were, say, Cork County Council, you could have it set that it zooms in to just Cork. So when user comes in, they'll just look at a particular area. Up in the top right-hand corner, you have some very basic navigation tools: zoom in, zoom out, home, and then zoom to the extent of a particular area. So I'll just go to Dublin. You can click the eye for information, and a splash screen comes up, just giving you a little bit more of an example of how to use the actual site itself. And then here's how you would draw the polygon, and I'm going to show that now shortly. Over here in the top left-hand corner, you have a full Google search, so Google's integrated into this particular portal here, and I can also search for air codes. I'm going to put in IMGS's. Y770. And go. Yeah, so you can see here's IMGS. So this is us at a Key Point Business Park here in Blanchardstown. So again, just brings me straight in. So again, if you have an engineer that only has an air code, or if they're in a rural area and they have an air code, again, really, really simple. They can put it in there, zoom to that point on the map, draw a polygon, and get the information that they want, or a mobile worker, or whomever it may be. And then over here, you have descriptions of the description of proposed work and the project reference if you have one.
And again, those values there, just for everybody to know, that they're driven as published parameters from FME. So actually, if somebody decided that they wanted to have, as you mentioned earlier on, Gareth, add an extra field, if they wanted to have a date, for argument's sake, or if they wanted to have a date of build, which is not today's date, so it's like in a month or whatever, all they've got to do is add to the administrator can just go into FME, add a published parameter for date. That the next thing the site runs, and once it's published to FME Server, that control there will change, and it'll actually show the extra field, which is date or whatever we want to show. And again, we can have drop down lists, selection boxes. So you could have something like, this is a personal development, or a state or something. So if the utility wants to collect some extra information, that's very easy to add here. It doesn't require any programming, and it can just be done through FME, which makes it so easy then to update and add in more information in the future.
Absolutely, very good point, Kieran. So this is through a login before you hit this portal. So these are free text boxes. So I can just type in, let's just say webinar. But again, as Kieran's saying there, if this is going out to the public without a login, or even internally, just to make it easier and to ensure that the data being inputted is correct, you can just give a very simple drop down for the same pick a particular area, pick a particular townland, a type of dwelling type, whatever it may be. And again, just make it very simple for a user to be able to consume that data and get the information back. So we're here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a polygon. Actually, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here for a sec. I'm going to draw a polygon, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a really big one here, and there we go. So I just wanted to get this error message to come up. So obviously, if you have a lot of data around the country, or even on a county level, last thing you want to do is a member of public or an engineer coming in and just going, just give me all the data and drawing a polygon around Ireland, for example. Naturally, you don't want that because your server would probably melt. So it's important that we have these kind of validation pieces in here. So no, you can't. And there's a little error message just saying that you can't. So when I hit close, it does quite a little clever thing here. So it resizes it. So you're allowed to take, in this example, information by 500 meters by 500 meters. So you can see my polygon has automatically resized, but you can see it's not over the point where I want it. So I can just come over here and I can click edit, and I can change the size, for example, if I wished, and I can also move it as well. I can move it over IMGS.
That moves nice.
Yeah, it's quite clever. Yeah, so it's quite nice. Yeah. And so yes, that's fine. And then I just click save, and this is where I want my information. I put in descriptions, webinar, project reference. Let's call it webinar 2019, and I'm going to click request data. So you can see your data is currently being requested. It's going to change now. So now up comes the next little splash screen, just saying thank you for your request. The Enet planning team will review your request and commit to respond to you within 10 working days. So again, this is obviously completely configurable in what you'd like to have up there. This is what Enet would like. Just tell them that you'll be back within 10 days. That's my phone vibrating there. So we'll explain how quick it is now in terms of getting that information back. So I have some examples that I had prepared earlier in terms of the email responses. So within about 10 seconds, well, not even, I would say that was what, 3-4 seconds, you get this automated response just saying thank you. Again, this text is completely configurable through the FME workspace. So this comes straight away just to say that thank you, we'll try to get back to you within 10 working days. The second response, which comes in about 10 seconds later, is this one here, which again, all this information can be configured with the PDF of the area that I've requested. So again, we've taken a process that could take up to 10 days, and we now turn it around in about 25 to 30 seconds time. So really, really quick, really, really powerful. No human intervention needed at any point in it, which is pretty amazing. If I just double click on here, I said I can't show Enet's network naturally. So this is unfortunately just a blank PDF, but just to give you an idea of how FME can generate this kind of stuff on the fly. If there was here, you'd see a bit of infrastructure. So you might see a couple of blue lines along here, and then maybe a couple of fiber optic cabinets over here, your disclaimer, and then you can have the information that I passed back here in terms of webinar test, and then just obviously I'm already registered as a user, so Gareth Cronin comes up as the customer name. So again, within seconds, this information is generated. So you're taking a process that took, as I said, could take days, and we now turned it around within a couple of seconds.
And of course, that PDF card, as well as being there for the customer, it's there, as you mentioned already, that's now on the server. It could be pushed to a shared drive, it could be pushed to a OneDrive, Dropbox, whatever anybody wants, and it's an archive of the fact that the request was sent. Also in the database, we have, again, going back to the audit trail, we know you made the request, we have the polygon that you actually submitted, and we've got the turnaround time that we give back to the customer. So again, when the regulator is coming to the utility and saying, okay, you know, how are you supporting your customers, you've got a full audit trail there to say, oh, actually, we are supporting them well, we're turning things around fast. And also internally, as where sometimes these kind of data requests can just be seen as an overhead and be taken for granted. Actually, when people can then justify and say, well, actually, we're getting X hundred data requests per year. Previously, that would have taken, 2 or 3, full-time engineers. Now we're actually able to automate and actually, as you said earlier on, do other more important work. Because again, this is just a 3D repeat. And again, all those maps and PDFs are being sent out. They're being sent out to the right standard, guaranteed. The guy can't decide to choose a different layout, can't decide to forget to put in the OSI disclaimer, can't decide to put out, forget to put in other marks or whatever. All that's done, and you've got that full audit trail and history, which is very important for this kind of important data.
Yeah, no, Kieran, all really, really valid points, and yes, we have examples of the customers doing that, and I think for any organisation, because at the end of the day, it's great to come into these webinars and hear how we do it, but when it comes to you guys on the ground, it will be a business case you'll be submitting, and so the best way to submit a business case is how about returning that value back to the organisation in terms of saving time, so not having, as Kieran had gave the example of maybe 2 full-time employees, or could be 200 man hours a year of doing these requests. By automating, that's 200 man hours you give back to the organisation. That is the cost of that far exceeds the cost of an automated portal like this. just when Kieran was speaking there, he actually reminded me something when he was just saying about the OSI maps as well, actually, and I forgot to show it there. There's multiple different map layouts now. In this particular example, we don't have OSI Map Genie as the background, but we do have other customers using this portal that use Map Genie. But again, you've got some different map types. So again, you can just click and you can see the different ones that we have there. So there's Every World, Google Sheets, or Google Street, sorry, and then satellite view. Again, you can have OSI that's in there as well, and you can have that information. So again, we can take in different types of map feeds as well, whichever you prefer yourself. So before I moved on, I just wanted to show you the registration process quick. Again, a lot of it's quite clever in terms of how we built it, how a new user could come in terms of workflow. I'm going to show this quite quickly. So I'm just going to put Garrett webinar, and I'm going to put in a new email address here, a company name. I'm going to say IMGS, and then I'm going to put in the password here. And then again. So again, the individual have to agree to your particular terms and conditions. Again, you can just take them off your own website and put them in here. But again, really, really basic page that someone come in and they can register. I can click I agree, create my account. Oh, that's not my phone number. So we have a recap sheet as well, just to make sure that the site isn't spammed. Now, I'm not great at these, but there's other
stairs.
Stairs, yeah. No, but sometimes they can be a bit. And that's a traffic light. Okay, verify. Yes. Yeah, that's the first time I got the stairs one. Okay, so I'm not a robot. I think create account. I think that's it. I should have gotten. I created an account just for the webinar here. So
did it finish there?
I think it did.
I think it kind of.
Need to verify your recaptcha. I did.
Yeah, I went back again. Yeah. I think your robot. Yeah, stairs weren't stairs.
Yeah, the storefront. Okay, that looks like a storefront. Geez, we could do a webinar on this alone.
Yeah,
that's a storefront. Verify.
Palm trees. We think you're a computer.
Yeah. They are off. There's palm trees there.
That's it.
Oh, will you stop? Boats.
I think we get it.
Yeah. Oh, there's a boat there as well. It's like a game.
Hey.
Yeah, there we go. So, so then it goes on. I think it's got it right first time. No, I think that brings you back to the cycle. It did. Of course, it wouldn't be a demo or a webinar if it didn't work. But again, what happens in terms of the next steps is I get an email to that new webinar Gmail account that I set up asking me to validate my email address. So again, that stops me signing Kieran up and telling him he has to sign them up for 50 different locations and having them spammed. So again, you just have that secure piece. That was me. Yeah, sorry about that, Kieran. You're slagging my mother, so I just couldn't have it. So again, it's quite a clever little process that's in there, and then that information is stored then back in behind the firewall in the database, and it's encrypted as well, so you know that information is quite secure. So really, really kind of clever stuff, and again, all using just the tools that I had mentioned: FME Desktop, FME Server, and our IMGS Mapping Portal. So
again, we've now it's kind of simple in how it looks from a demo point of view. But actually, the workflow there is really taking advantage of FME Server. So when you create the email account, it automatically sends out the email to the customer. They then accept it. When that comes back in, then the FME enables the account in the database. We've also got a forget password capability. So if somebody forgets their password, it'll resubmit it and send it out to their saved email address. And again, as Gareth mentioned earlier on in the session, we encrypt all the email data and the passwords and everything in the database. So again, that information is kept at a secure level. So again, and a big thing I suppose is that now functionality is part of our map portal as we talked about.
Yeah, no, it's all true. And automation, I think, is definitely one of security and automation. Everybody's probably a bit afraid of automation, as in letting people have self-service, and Kieran, to coin your phrase, go to the wild, wild west, just open up the doors and everybody comes in and just grab all the data that they want and run away. But no, by you can still give that level of automation, but again, in a secure and kind of managed fashion by limiting the access to the right people at the right time. So before you jump off, I'm just going to quick summarize, and then I'm going to talk about our next webinar and the FME World Tour. So just to kind of recap, and again, I know the example that we showed today was very, very kind of bespoke or very focused in terms of click before you dig. But again, when you're sitting there, think of any manual process that has taken you or other departments quite a lot of time, a lot of human effort, and mundane in terms of just the general of gathering information together, sending out in a particular format. Again, look about how you can automate those manual workflows, and that's what I think that we've shown today. You can empower users to self-serve. Again, so either if you're a user requesting this information from IT or a particular internal department, again, a tool like this to automate it, again, it really does empower you to get your job done a lot quicker. And then in the same, if you are a department who's receiving a lot of these requests, again, giving those man hours back to the team for them to be focused on actual more value add and complex parts of the role. And then improve time to insight. Again, I know it's kind of one of those kind of cheesy lines, but it really does. If you're waiting 4 or 5 days to get information on, for instance, the underlying network or all local authority housing in a particular area or traffic information, whatever it may be, again, if you're getting information 4 or 5 days after the fact, it's pointless. You're going to send another request. Also, if you're a department and it's taking you that long to turn those requests around, you're just creating more requests for yourself because those end users will just keep requesting data to try to get it more and more up to date. So again, just improving those time to insights. Our next webinar is, actually we'll do Q&A actually in a second, sorry, that slide's in the wrong place. Map Enterprise Mobile is our next webinar. It's actually at this time next week, so at 10 a.m. next week. Myself and I think it is Pagruti will be talking about Map Enterprise Mobile. So again, just about to be able to go out and to do mobile data capture out in the field. So really, really good, really, really cool demo. So if you have time, you can go onto our IMGS website and you can register there. Also, I just wanted to touch on the FME World Tour. So obviously, FME World Tour was at the heart of obviously the FME was at the heart of everything we spoke about today. So again, the FME World Tour, it's a free event. We host it. We are honoured to host it annually on behalf of Safe Software. So it is on Tuesday, the 14th of May. We're doing everything on a Tuesday this year. On the 14th of May, and it's in the Ashton Hotel as it has been probably for the last 7 or 8 years. Absolutely great day, probably my favourite day of the year. I always think it's great to get users from around the country talking, and it doesn't matter if you're an expert or if you're only picked up FME for the first time. It's a great place to share knowledge and to upskill. Plus as well, we feed you quite well, and then there's always prizes from FME as well, from Safe Software, which are always amazing. I don't think I can say what this year's prizes, can I? I want to say what they are. Oh, I won't. So leave it as a surprise. Keep it as a surprise, yeah. Well, listen, register at both. If you want to register for the webinar next week, or if you want to register for the World Tour in May, please just come onto our website, imgs.ie, or www.imgs.ie, and you can register in there. Tanya, do you have any questions?
A couple have come in there. The first one is, did the system take long to go live?
I guess once we sat down and we kind of agreed the workflow and what data we were taking and from where, what validation needs to be put in place, that was probably the bulk of it. The second piece was around styling. So again, were we going to put it into PDF? We're going to put it into Word. There's going to be HTML. So again, just kind of sitting down with different users, the different departments, and agreeing what the output would be, the styling, the legend on the right-hand side. Those type of things took a bit of time, but if you already kind of have a layout in your head and you know how to move forward, that makes things much, much easier. But no, I think it was only, I don't want to say a number out loud, but it was quite short in terms of turnaround. Once we had those two kind of main elements in place, what the workflow would be, and then what the output would look like, once that was in place, we put it all together quite quickly because we've deployed it before in a few different places, not a click before you did, more of an internal and external data download portal.
Great.
Question.
We have one more here then. What source data can the system take?
What source data? I guess it's FME, so they support over 400 different formats. I think it's actually at 475 now. So again, in terms of source information coming in and then data going out, it really is, it's almost limitless. Anything that's not there, it's not something that we configure into it.
So all the major utility formats, such as like Small World, Esri, Hexagon, Map Info, CAD, you know, really. So like that's the power. And actually a lot of utilities, like I think all utilities in Ireland are using FME, so they'll have workflows already for taking the data out. And that's the great thing with the portal. We can actually reuse those FME workflows to push and pull the data and actually say, so again, and that speeds up the implementation time.
And the valid point, just to kind of extend on what Kieran had said there, was that it doesn't have to be a spatial format either. This could be a spatial format, and it could be an Excel file, and it could be a Google KML coming in. Again, it is endless in terms of the information that can be read in, and then that can be pushed out to the end user. So, we just absolutely loads and loads of examples. And that's really it from us. Thanks for dialing in, and if you have any additional questions, the majority of people will have my contact details. It's gcronin@imgs.ie, or Tanya will be sending out a follow-up email in the next day or so. So by all means, if you're too shy to ask a question today, you can pop us a question, and we'll do our best to come back to you. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye. Bye.